Hello, everyone. Fulgence here with ATS, and I am back with Jen for another live edition of Built for This. Jen,
This.
how are you feeling today?
I'm feeling great today. And you know what makes me really happy is that intro sound effect. I love it.
Yeah, that is. I could play that over and over again. I love that sound effect. I love that sound effect,
Yeah,
and I am looking forward to our conversation today. So,
me
Jen,
too. Yes.
we should just jump into it again, right?
Let's do
It
it.
worked. It
Let's do
worked
it.
the
One of
last
my
time.
favorite speakers.
So let's do it. So let's get right into it. So today we are joined by someone who knows the steel industry inside and out with over a decade of experience across HR, logistics, sales, and education. Trish Brindle is dedicated to helping architects and design professionals understand how Fire Trol can transform their projects with better aesthetics, durability, and ease of maintenance. Outside of work, Trish is all about celebrating life with family and friends, and she's proven she can take on any challenge, even running the Dublin City Marathon as a self described non runner while raising $4,000 for the Leukemia Society in honor of her brother in law. And at home, she's the lone queen in a castle of full of men, her husband, three sons, and two hilarious golden doodles. Everyone, here's Trish Brindle.
Hello.
Welcome, Trish. Welcome.
Oh, that was a funny intro. I like it.
Hey, and you know, I have a new golden doodle as well. And he's new to the family, and also a male, not a female. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, fortunately, my son was able to take them out of the house. Usually, my little one kind of gets up in the business. He likes to be on camera. So you guys are just stuck with me today. Sorry.
Jen, you did the same thing, right? So
I did the same thing. Yeah. Out. You're out.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
oh my gosh. Trish, as mentioned in the intro, you've worn many hats in the steel industry. So tell us how you began there and how this led to your current role in educating architects about structural fire protection.
Okay. Well, I never anticipated working in the steel industry. I married into a family that owned steel businesses, and I was not involved in that. I worked, like you said, I raised money and ran a marathon for the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society. So I was more in that nonprofit slash corporate world. My husband and I got married. We had children. We had the three boys. I stayed home with them for many years. And when my youngest was in first grade, I had a little bit more time on my hands, and just being home wasn't enough for me. So my husband and I at that time owned a residential house column business, steel house columns,
Hmm.
Lally columns. So his business was, or our business, I should say, was growing, and he was the only one there handling literally everything. So I went in to start helping with staffing issues, HR topics, things like that, because that was becoming more and more prominent. And then as our business grew, I became more present there in helping him in what he needed help with. Fast forward a couple of years later, my father-in-law had Fire Trol in the Midwest market. He decided to move it to the East Coast, and I became his general manager at that point and became more involved. so it just kept growing and growing. Unbeknownst to me, I'm thinking, how did I get involved in this? This was not what I thought would be in my future, but there it was, right? Best laid plans. And then,
Some industries, pick it, pick a you instead of you picking it. And that's what
I,
happened, it sounds like.
yeah, that's exactly what happened, because after being home with the boys for, 10 or 12 years, I was kind of like, what do I do? The technology boom happened, and I really was very, I mean, I could text my mom friends. That was really what I was good at, but it was a lot to learn. So it was a nice segue, to get back into it and have that family connection. That was really important to me. And then a few years into running Fire Trol, I was introduced to this position of education. So it's a little bit of sales at the end of the spectrum, working with the structural steel fabricators and making sure they've got everything they need. And then early on, which is where the largest part of my job is working with the design professionals and educating them on the Fire Trol column. It's a prefabricated fireproof column solution. So it's really gone from one level to the next. It's grown quite organically and nicely over the years.
Yeah. So, and I can't remember, where are you located?
I live in New York State, and
Okay.
our fabrication and shipping all is out of Connecticut.
Okay. Yeah, Fulgens and we talked about that earlier. Where is she from? And
Right.
Fulgens is in New York, so
Yeah.
We've
New York
talked
State.
about
Yeah.
that. Yeah, we
Yeah.
talk about the snow a lot in the winter.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Definitely. Yeah, definitely here in Rochester. So, and we
Mhm.
had a rough winter last year.
Yeah, I'm not ready. Just the 7 p.m. darkness is getting me.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
coming soon, and that just kind of like triggered some PTSD for me just now. Once you said
Sorry.
Well, we are here today to talk about what this is built for, built for fire protection. And so I know there's a lot of fire rated systems, and this is a really hot topic for all of the architects that, why did I say architects? Students, architects in our seminars, our CE seminars. We talk about fire a lot. In fact, it's a hot topic that we have seminars on. So I've heard about active versus passive systems. What's the difference? Can you give us a little bit more information on that?
Yeah. So active fire protection is your fire protection that really needs a trigger in order for it to work against an active fire.
Okay.
Sprinkler system, a fire extinguisher. So it needs something to set it off, whether it's the smoke of the fire or a person, activating a fire extinguisher. So that's your active fire protection. And then passive fire protection, which is what Fire Trol is, and there's some other solutions out there as well, is kind of, not so visible, not so in your face. It may be hidden up in the wall, down in the floor, in the ceiling. It's just ready to work when you need it to. It's not
Okay.
something that requires human contact in order for it to work.
Okay. Makes sense.
awesome.
Yeah.
And what options do specifiers have when it comes to structural fire protection?
So there's about 5 different options for them. There's the Fire Trol system, which is the prefabricated fireproof column. You could use a spray apply coating, which a lot of times you'll see in basements and garages of buildings. You have the option for drywall, which is great for a lower traffic area, office buildings, medical practices, places like that. You have an intumescent coating option, and then concrete, which is kind of the OG of fireproofing.
Awesome. And could you just elaborate a little bit more on each one and how they differ?
Sure. I'd say the biggest difference is price, and size. So if you have, I'd say if you're looking for the cheapest form of fireproofing a structural steel column and it's going to be in the basement or a parking garage of a building, you'd probably go with a spray applied coated column. It's not really aesthetically pleasing to look at. It's the cheapest, so it is very popular out there. If you were to want a very nice high-end finish and something sleeker, more aesthetically pleasing, you would probably choose the Fire Trol column. Say you were designing this beautiful glass entryway and you had some columns that were visible and they needed a fire rating. You have that nice steel shell on the outside that could be painted to match any aesthetic. So it's really a nice finish. Your intumescent is also used in a higher traffic area. It's a slimmer option as well. Concrete is very durable. We all know that about concrete, but it's very bulky. So you just want to be aware of your space when you're working with concrete. And then drywall is probably the least durable. You need 2 layers of drywall to get a 2-hour fire rating, but if it gets damaged, it has to be replaced. So that's why I mentioned earlier, definitely a lower traffic indoor space where the drywall will not become damaged because that's your fireproofing for your structural steel. So if you have a fork truck that runs into it and puts a big gash into it, you're going to have an issue with the fire rating now for that structural steel.
Okay. So when would an architect start planning for fire protection, planning for a structural column?
A great question. As soon as they know that they're working in a space or an entire building where the steel will need a fire rating, they need to know, where's the steel going to go. So for example, if the steel is going to be all encased in a wall unit, you probably would not use a Fire Trol system, because you don't really care what it looks like. It's going to be inside of a wall. But if you know it's going to be architecturally exposed, we always encourage people to reach out to us sooner than later. For example, yesterday I spoke with an engineer at Thornton Tomasetti, me and one of my coworkers, and they're designing a project down in Florida. So we were able to get on with him earlier. We made things, we simplified the process for him that he didn't even know was an option. And in 20 minutes, this thing that he was kind of like, oh, I don't know how this is going to go, it was answered, and now he's like, this is great. Now we could just keep moving forward. So we always encourage you to reach out, soon as or you have the idea that you may want to work with Fire Trol, give us a call and we'll get on a call with you and look at your drawings and talk about possibilities and see how we can help you.
Great.
Absolutely. So now let's talk specifically about the prefabricated fireproof. Say that 3 times. So I think, Jen, I think this is the say that 3 times phrase of this week. Prefabricated fireproof columns, which are
It's a
built
lot.
for exactly. Right. So once again, prefabricated fireproof columns, which are built for fire protection, obviously. What should a designer consider in the specification?
Well, some things they want to consider is, the overall design of the space. What are they looking to achieve? Like I said, what is this space going to be encompassing? Is it going to be a high traffic area where they want durability for their fire protection? You definitely want to keep that in mind, the durability, the maintenance. Who wants to be in this beautiful library that they're constantly, painting the columns or repairing it? You want to keep that in mind. So the performance of the fireproofing is really important. The structural and design integrity of the fireproofing is really important. And I also, really promote sustainability. What are you looking for that as well? Because some of the solutions that are out there do provide more sustainability options than others.
Okay, so that sustainability subject is near and dear to my heart. So we're going to talk a little bit about that in a moment. But let's talk about aesthetics. So are you limited to size and shape, or can you get creative? What does the prefabricated, I'm going to say this, prefabricated fireproof columns lend from a creativity standpoint?
That's one thing that architects, you guys are saying it really well. There are some times when I'm doing a lunch and learn, and if it's one of those days that we all have that we just stumble over words, it's ugly. I'm going to be honest with you. Like, oh, okay, everybody, bear with me, But that's one thing that architects really do enjoy, as far as, or designers, as far as working with a Fire Trol system, you can get creative, which is really not an option when you're working with a lot of other fireproofing systems. So to give you an example, we have, if you're using a wide flange piece of steel for your structural member, and then you have a shell on the outside, we fill the entire interior with fireproofing material. So that's going to fire protect your structural member. You have the option to add some conduit and run some conduit through that fireproofing material to hide any wires. So say you were going to hang some lights on the outside of the shell, to
Okay.
illuminate that area or something like that, or run a drainage pipe through there. You can now hide that inside the column. So you're making everything look more aesthetically pleasing. Besides using a nicer finish for the column, you can now use those mechanical details. You can hang some things. It's not really, the shell is not a load bearing column, but you can hang some attachments on there to make your design look more like the space that you're working in. So we have this project out by you, Fulgens. It's out at SUNY ESF,
Hmm.
and it's a College of Environmental Science and Forestry. And what the architect did was when you first walk in the admissions building, there's a Fire Trol column in front of you, and they added some like planks on the outside, and it looks like a tree, it looks like tree branches coming off. So it kept with the whole theme of that campus of the college, and it looks great, So again, you can have a specialty size. There's really nothing we can't do.
That's
So it
awesome.
hits like the trifecta. It's a heavy lifter, pun intended, so
Mhm.
structural. It's nice to look at, and it is sustainable, and supports green building. So
Yep.
yeah,
Absolutely. Yeah. So it's kind of I enjoy this job especially too because I like helping people. It's just part of my who I am as a person. So when I meet with designers at conferences and stuff and they say, "Oh my gosh, this is what I need." I get happy about that. It's nice to know that we're solving a problem for them, and I don't know, I'm just not into people stressing out and worrying. So on a professional level, if you could help somebody with something like that, I think it's a win-win.
yeah,
It's always great to solve problems.
Yeah.
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 Trish, tell us what one point would you like to emphasize when it comes to planning fire protection in commercial buildings?
The one point I think that's most important is really know your codes, know the fire codes of the city that you're working in. The architects and the building code officials typically design those in, but know what they are. That way, when you're deciding on a fireproofing solution for your structural columns, you kind of know what direction you need to go in. So that's what I would say to start with that.
Good advice. All right, so let's talk about that green building aspect of this. So you and I, we talked earlier this year about your efforts in getting third-party testing from an EPD standpoint, HPD standpoint, that brand-specific environmental product declaration. See, that's cumbersome too. And so I just want to bring up that. Tell us what the process was like from the perspective of a building product manufacturer. So I have heard that it is a pretty lengthy, expensive, detailed process. Can you elaborate a little bit more on that?
You have heard right.
Okay.
You have not been lied to on that. No, no, no. Yes, it was expensive. It was lengthy. It was detailed for sure. But it's important. All of this is really important. And I think nothing is easy, at any point in time. Everything takes a little bit of work. So it really, from a manufacturer's standpoint, it was, between our sales and estimating, our purchasing department, our operations team. It took a few of us, to go through. We'd set up weekly meetings and kind of talk about the information we needed to gather, who was doing what. The company that we used to verify our information gave us spreadsheets that we had to fill out. I felt sometimes almost like I was a chemist. Science was never my subject in school. So this for me, all of us, I'll be honest, we were all like, oh my gosh, we should pop a bottle of champagne when we're done. But it was, it was a big group effort amongst us. And then, obviously, like I said, the third party verifiers that we worked with. So it definitely took a little bit of time. I do recommend, I didn't know, obviously you don't know what you don't know. So if anybody out there listening is thinking about starting this HPD, EPD, LCA trifecta, know it's going to take a while. Make sure everybody's going to be around. Nobody's heading out on vacation for a month or 2 weeks or something, and really delegate. So it's more of a team effort instead of one person doing everything.
Oh, that's good advice. Yeah. So uh, let's talk about the certifications, the environmental product declaration. That evaluates the impact that product specific. And I know that there's a category specific, like concrete or wood or sheetrock, but this is brand specific, directly from your company. Um, it evaluates that your product's impact on the environment. So can you elaborate a little bit more on those specific areas that the EPD tests for?
Yes, yeah. So the EPD really tests for 6 different, as I guess you've got like, yeah, it's a tongue twister. I guess it's my turn to get the tongue
Yeah.
twister words. Eutrophication, acidification, global warming, ozone depletion, smog, like if there's going to be smog formation, and then also your primary energy use. So how much energy are you using when you're producing this product? So that's where it really did come into a big play here, that there was a lot of us working on this, but it was a lot of deep diving, and going back
Mhm.
into seeing, going through electrical statements and things like that, and really deciphering through. So,
Wow. Yeah, I mean, you're it's transparent. You're putting it all out there. You're saying this is our impact on the environment, and emphasizing transparency in your manufacturing process, and I guess that whole life cycle. And I know that the life cycle analysis was part of the EPD as well. So looking at every stage of uh, from sourcing raw materials, from transportation, installation, building use, and then at the end of the life of the building, where does it go? Does it go into the landfill, or does it go into um, recycled into another product, another, a new building? So yeah, you're putting you're out there saying this is who we are, and we're dedicated to green building. It's pretty impressive.
yeah, I think it's important. When I first started this role and just meeting with these designers and everybody in the AEC community, we talked a lot about this. So we felt as a company, it was, again, we were ready because we heard it's a big undertaking, but we felt to, build trust with our partners out there throughout the US and Canada, and also just to know, maybe is there something we could be doing differently too? Like I said a moment ago, you don't know what you don't know. So once
Yeah.
you have everything put together in one report, it's easier to look at it and say, okay, what changes could we make as well?
Mm. Oh yeah. I didn't think about it that way. Yeah.
And also for HPD, so how can a product affect the health of building occupants?
So the HPD is a little bit different. It talks about the chemicals that are in the actual product and how that affects people that are working or living in that space. So how does that product or those chemicals behave when that person is working or living there and during the entire lifespan of that building? If over time paint starts to erode and maybe it gives off fumes or gases, or something like that, we spend a lot of time in offices. I mean, I work from home, so maybe I should look at my own paint. But, for the most part, we spend a lot of time in our office spaces. So I think the design community is really passionate about providing the best places for people to work, and building owners as well. I think it's important to them to know, okay, we want to give people, we don't want to be the cause for somebody to get this chronic disease 50 years later when they haven't worked here for so many years, because we all hear of that happening sometimes.
Yeah. So this is a two-part question. Why did you or Fire Trol decide to invest in these evaluations? And then what would you say to other manufacturers about making the decision to do the same thing and being full transparent?
Yep. Well, we decided to do it because we felt like, the sustainability, it helps tell a story of our transparency, as transparent as we could be. This is who we are. And like I said, if we can make changes, we'll make changes. Nobody's perfect. I think it's important to know that. Working with or a company that has an HPD or an EPD also provides you the opportunity to apply for or obtain more LEED credits for your projects. So that's something you might want to look into a little bit more as well, is, okay, this company does have an HPD and an EPD, and that will afford me X amount of credits. So or points. That's something that you might want to consider as well. And then there's also regulatory compliance. More states are requiring that their buildings have HPDs and EPDs. So that means more design firms are going to be requiring this over time. So besides it being a moral thing to do, at some point you do have those legal obligations as well as a company. If you want to stay current and in the right place at the right time, you really do have to do this. And as far as, what would I say to other manufacturers, just do it. Just jump in with both feet. Do your research, find out what's going to be needed. And like I said, look at a timeline. If it's June and you say, oh, everybody's going to be on vacation, it's probably not the right time to start the process.
Yeah.
Because then we kind of did that. I'll be honest with you. I had to go out on leave for a little bit, and it was always there, the whole time. So I wouldn't recommend doing what we did. But it all worked out. It was fine. It was just we didn't know that. So if I could pass along some valuable information, it's kind of get your core group of people, who's going to do what, but definitely do it, because it's something that it's not like it's coming, it's here. So I was at a conference last week, actually, and one of the presenters asked how many of us, we were all manufacturers, had our EPD and HPD. And I think there were 50 of us there, and only 3 of us raised our hand.
Wow.
And he said, you need to get on it. Like, you guys are late. You're late. So, but I think the weariness there is people don't know what it is. So it could be a bit much, but you'll get through it.
So one thing that I learned at our Net Zero event on Earth Day this year was there's a database of EPDs out there, and your carbon calculations in building up those, the certification goes into a database, and folks can get in there and use a carbon calculator and plug in the products to determine, if I choose this selection, then this is the embodied carbon of my design when you're specifying products. But if I choose, like, an example that was given to us was wood versus concrete. If I choose wood, obviously you're going to have a lower embodied carbon footprint than you would if you chose concrete. But all of that goes into building that calculation and making those product decisions at the beginning. I mean, it's only going to get bigger as more manufacturers jump on board, like you said.
Yeah, and I think more manufacturers and more design firms will have a person who handles the sustainability, because I think it could be its own full-time job. Like you said, there's a calculator. So they're already specifying like 3,000 items in one project. So now they have
Yep.
to start going, looking the HPDs and the EPDs. I mean,
Yep.
so I think there'll be more jobs created
Yeah.
specifically for sustainability as we move
Yeah.
further into the
There's a lot of
future.
software out there to help specifiers make those decisions, but you got to be in the database to be considered.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
Wow. So again, I'm always coming from the newbie perspective, and there's like so much to learn here. And speaking of so much to learn, uh, I've been copying on some of Jen's emails and things of that nature. So I hear that you have a new course coming out soon. So do you care to spill out the details live right here on
Sure,
Skillfulness?
absolutely. It's a little appetizer on this Friday afternoon. I'm composing a course as we speak on EPDs and HPDs and sustainability. So we are going to be focusing more of a deep dive into what an HPD is, what an EPD is, a lot more. There's a lot to it. I promise you that. So in order to really understand it, taking this course would be really valuable. So we'll go into the, who, what, where, when, how, and why of the EPD and the HPD. We'll touch on the LCA, that life cycle assessment that Jen mentioned earlier. And then towards the end, I plan on introducing a company, possibly Fire Trol, that got the EPD or HPD and the process that we went through to get it, what an actual HPD looks like and an EPD. So you guys can, see, any of you out in that AEC industry can see what this is, and you feel like you have a little bit of knowledge. It's going to be an introductory course. So definitely don't feel like, well, I don't know anything, I probably shouldn't attend. Trust me, I'm still learning a lot. There's a lot to this. By no means am I an expert, but I'm here to put this course together for you guys to share this information to, so all of us can gain the knowledge we need.
I'm so
You know
excited
where you
about
heard
this
it
course.
first. Yeah. And speaking of courses, would you like to mention your current course that you have? You have an on-demand course on our ATS website, atsseminar.com, for those of you who are not aware.
Yes, yes, absolutely. It's my baby. So we have the prefabricated fireproof column course. It's a great course. I've been presenting it for several years now. And we talk about, the active and passive fire protection, those 5 solutions that I mentioned a few moments ago, the intumescent, the fire troll column, the concrete, etc. And dive into those a little bit. We talk about pros and cons of each. We discuss design and erection considerations, what they look like out in the field, pricing. So we compare apples to apples, what each one is priced at when compared to the next. And then we finish with a really nice slideshow. It seems to be everybody's favorite part. I try not to take it personal because I talk a lot less during the slideshow. So I'm a little bit more quiet. It's a lot of talking as a presenter. But we wrap up with a slideshow right before Q&A of what these prefabricated fireproof columns look like out in various industries. So anyone in the design community can see, oh, this connects like that, or you can do this. Okay, that's great. So it's a fantastic, again, introductory level course. So if anybody's interested, Fulgence has my information up there. Please feel free to reach out to me and we can get one scheduled for you.
Yes, absolutely. And that course is totally free on our website, atsseminar.com. And what's cool is you don't have to do the tongue twister like we did here today, prefabricated fireproof columns. Just go to atsseminar.com and click on the on-demand courses link. And then just type in the keyword fire and boom, that course will pop right up. So
There we
there
are.
you go. We gave you the shortcut. Awesome.
Yeah, and I think Trish, you do a lot of lunch and learns, and if someone would like to reach out to you with questions about your existing course or the future course, or even about how you went through getting the EPD, Fulgence is going to. I think you're going to put up her contact information, and you're willing to go into firms and present the existing course and the future course down the road, right?
Yeah, yep. We do a lot of the lunch and learns that I do, believe it or not, are virtual. I'll do both. Typically if it's in the tri-state area where I am in New York, I'll go to a firm. If it's flying across the country, a lot of times if I'm in the area at a conference, I'll make an appointment to go in at that time. A lot of them prefer a virtual lunch and learn because they have still so many people that are now hybrid or so
Yep.
they just think it's easier that way. If it's a larger firm that has studios across the country, we'll agree on one time, maybe like a 2 p.m. start. So you can have your West Coast people and your East Coast people, and we'll have, 150 people on the call at one time from all
Wow.
different states.
Recording stopped.
Excellent. This was great. So once again,
Yeah.
check out atsseminar.com, go to on demand, keyword fire, and check out Trish's current course, prefabricated fireproof columns. Look, see, when you say it slowly, it's much better that way.
You
Yeah.
get used to it. You
Yeah,
get used
yeah.
to saying it, but
Oh,
it's
yeah.
nice when I can say Fire Troll. I'm like, ooh, I
Yeah.
feel like I just had a half a day,
And
Well,
I'm looking forward to the new course. That's
yeah,
gonna be
me
cool
too.
stuff. Yeah. You were gonna say something, Jen? Go
Definitely.
ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say how much I appreciate Trish you joining us for our podcast. We're in the early stages. This is just our third one, and it was so much fun, getting to know you better and being a part of this event.
Yeah. And I also want to thank you as well, Trish, because I've been a moderator for the seminars and webinars since December, and every time you come, it's just a pleasure to work with you. And it's like it just helps me feel like, okay, Trish got this. It's like that's
Yeah.
that's the feeling and energy I get. Trish got this. I don't have to worry. It's like you're just like cruise control whenever you come and present for our event.
Yeah.
So thank you so
Oh
much.
my
You're an
goodness.
amazing presenter.
Thank you, guys. That's really nice compliments. I appreciate that. I'll hold that near and dear to my heart. And I enjoy working with you both as well. And I was really excited to get the invitation, to be on here with you guys and talk about this topic. It's really important. So thank you for
Yeah.
having me today.
Yes, awesome. And
Thank you.
thank you. And again, if you're watching, welcome. Thank you for joining us. And please leave a comment, say hello, give us some feedback if you enjoyed this episode with Trish. And once again, we'll throw Trish on the screen and put the contact info right there. 860-810-5703. Trish at fire-troll.com. Trish at fire-troll.com. And Trish, while you're there, any last minute takeaways?
No, I think this podcast is a great way to reach people, at wherever they are, whatever availability they have. And if anybody has any questions, getting more personal with my company, please always feel free to reach out. There's no stupid question out there. So I really enjoy working with the community. So hopefully I can hear from somebody soon.
Yep.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Trish.
You're welcome.
Really appreciate it. And thank you for joining us today. We will be back with another episode of Built for This soon. I'm Fulgence here with Jen and Trish. And once again, we hope to see you at an upcoming seminar or webinar. Check out our full calendar at atsseminar.com, including our on-demand video content library. And we'll see you next time.
See you next time, everyone.